Hello, everyone. My name is Anya Soto. I'm here with Carol McLean, and we will be chatting about burnout. How do we prevent it? How do we recognize it in ourselves? How do we recognize it in people that we lead, people that we manage? And just for the context, we decided to do this broadcast because so many of our clients have been asking us like our people are burnout, our people are stressed, people are tired, people are exhausted, people are not performing at their best, we're losing people. I'm seeing a lot of turnover, right, especially in innovation. I'm in San Diego with biotech, where it's like people can only perform with high adrenaline for so long until they crash, until they burn out, until they get all stressed. So today the conversation, I asked Carol to share with us the neuroscience behind it, because I know in training and coaching, I've been doing it for the past 10 years. There's been so much. We believed in affirmations and the way you carry yourself and the energy you bring into the rooms. And I think for so long, people were like, yeah, this is all like spiritual woo-woo stuff, the soft skills, we don't want it. Well, today, Carol is going to share with us a little bit of a neuroscience that actually affirmations create new neural pathways in our brain, and we can change the default thinking. And I always say, leaders, we have a default thinking, and then that causes us to act in a certain way, right? It's like default behaviors. So thank you, Carol. And let's dive in and just talk a little bit about on an individual level, right? Going through pandemic, first we didn't know how long it's gonna go. Then in our families, now we have the looming recession. There's like quiet quitting, layoffs, all of these things. People are in constant stimulation. So talk to us a little bit about like what creates burnout or that stress.
What creates that stress level is getting piled on more and more work. And what I want to point you to is there's some research by a researcher, Amy Arnston, and it is the Goldilocks of the brain. How can we get ourselves into just right? And I think the world right now doesn't have many places where you're in too little.
Yeah,
People know too much.
yeah,
They know that place. So standing in the place of too much, what's going on in your brain? You're getting flooded with chemicals. The adrenaline for the brain is called norepinephrine
yeah.
and dopamine. So what happens when you're flooded with all these chemicals? For me, I'm looking for my glasses. I can't find them and they're right on my head. Someone comes and asks me a question and I snap their head off. So I have lack of empathy. I
Mm-hmm.
have poor memory. Someone says, what's that person's name? Or what did you do yesterday? I don't know.
I know.
So
I,
this
I
is,
think for me, it's also going into silo. Like I'm so overstimulated. I can no longer work with the team. I cannot respond to people. I'm like, everybody needs to leave me alone. I just need to concentrate on my thing. I can't handle all of these things happening at once, right? Inside, like with, let's say, teamwork.
yeah. And what happens? You have your head down, you're missing, you're only looking at one thing. You're missing the big picture, you're missing the connection to others.
Yeah.
So, what we're trying to do is get you to your just right, where the chemicals in your brain are balanced. You need some dopamine reward. Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
You need some norepinephrine, the adrenaline for the brain, to stimulate you, to get you off the couch. Now,
Yeah.
what happens to people are they're overstimulated, overstressed, and then they think, oh, I just want to go to too little.
Into nature and like completely disconnect. Yeah.
Disconnect. And that puts you, interestingly enough, it puts you in the same place. Have you ever been sitting on the couch, foggy thinking, can't find
Yeah.
your glasses?
And more tired. Mhm.
So too little or too much take you to the same place. So where
Wow.
do you want to be? You
Yeah.
want to be in just right, which is clear goals, making and retrieving memories, your decision making, you're able to make clear decisions, understanding what others think, empathy for others. And this is where you're working, your prefrontal cortex is working optimally.
Yeah. I love that. And I think so. We're talking a lot about like ourselves, right, as leaders. And then we're working with managers and leaders inside organizations. It's like, when do they recognize that I have no empathy? I have, like, I don't care what you think. We're going to just get it done, get it done, get it done, right? So I think it's so important to recognize it in ourselves. And then what is, how do we see it in others, people that we lead? Right, it's like, if I know I'm too much, and or maybe let's stop and talk about it. It's like the recovery, right? How do we find maybe our just enough and just right, and then we'll move into seeing it in other people.
Yeah, and I think it is, for me, I would say physically standing in that place of too much, like
Mm,
noticing what is going on in my body. There's neuroscience that 90% of the information comes from your body up to your brain. If
mm,
you just even visualize yourself in the too much, you're going to get the hits. What's
yeah,
going on?
yeah,
Then move over to too little. Visualize yourself sitting in too little. What am I like? How am I reacting? And then where is my just right? And your just right is not my just right. It's
yeah,
individual. Some
yeah.
people need more stimulation. Some people need a little bit less. So finding out where your own just right is. And that might be like taking a walk, taking a break every day, having these rituals that support your overall well being.
It's kind of like I'm looking right at the cup, and when my cup gets too full, it starts spilling. So that's the metaphor I use for myself. I'm like, when it's too little, I have nothing to give.
Yeah,
When it's too much, I'm like on overdrive. And yeah, throughout the day, kind of like measuring my own cup of water and be like, okay, do I need to fill it up a little? Do I need to empty it a little?
yeah, yeah,
That's a cool way of seeing. And I love how you're bringing the body into the picture. Because again, in leadership development and corporate training, we're always fighting like against this stigma, right, of like, yeah, like, listen to your body, whatever, I just need to get stuff done. And the integration and saying, listen, it is like stress lives here, you know it. We think we're cognitive beings, right, but
yeah,
we're feeling beings, we're emotional beings that think sometimes, but most of our decisions are driven by our emotions and how we feel. And when you talk about like snapping at people, disconnecting, isolating, this is all emotions. It has nothing to do, because in your
yeah,
brain, you're like, I don't understand. Like, why am I doing this? I actually like this person. Why did I have this conflict at work? Like, this makes
yeah.
no sense to me.
And
It's that.
I want to add, you talked about the body and how, that's totally discounted. How many times have leaders got a gut feeling? And that is coming, there's a nerve in your body, that's for another day, called the vagus nerve, that all of the information travels up that vagus nerve to your brain and then out of your mouth. So, yeah. So that's another day, Vegas.
Another day to create a pause between all the information that follows into your brain and before it comes out of your mouth. What is that pause?
Yeah.
So thank you. Let's talk a little bit about people. I really want to help leaders because our whole thing around crafting culture by design, creating kind cultures, bringing humanity into organizations. I'm all about like, how can we be kind with each other and build those like highly, highly effective teams, not rock star individuals. We're talking always about like the team. Is your team performing right at their ultimate, like this, in their zone of genius? So how do you start recognizing it in others? What can managers and leaders inside organizations do to kind of, I don't know, check in with their people to prevent the burnout, to see when is it too much, when is it too little?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I would say practice your own just right, know your own just right as a leader.
Yeah.
Then also recognize the people on your team. Where is their just right? What do they love doing every week? Have
Yeah.
those conversations with them. What is it that you love? And that's the reward. Like, that's what's going to have your employees be engaged. What has challenged you this week?
Mm,
What has given you too much stimulation? Having that empathy for others, understanding, building relationships, and integrating your relationships, integrating your employees, like making sure that they're operating from integration. Because what I spoke about, these foggy thinking, that's disintegration. Their
Mm,
brains are disintegrated. So recognizing integration in yourself, what does that look like? Integration in your teams, what does that look like? This is where you're going to get innovation, engagement, people pumped, ready to come to work and create.
yeah. And also recognizing, I think, what you started with, overstimulation and under, right? It's like we talk a lot about the flow, like when it's just again enough. Because we're like, oh my God, we overstimulated people. Now let's take everything off their plate and let them rest. And that's the stagnation, apathy, they're bored. Now they're looking for another job. Or we're overstimulating with like, we have to give them job, give them more, give them more, give them tasks so they're never bored. So, and I think also having those discussions, maybe individually, one on one, and as a team, what is our just right when we are not bored, but always also not always behind, running on adrenaline nonstop.
Yeah. And what is the culture, of your organization? Can they come to you? Can members of the team come to you, have honest conversations with you, and you work together on solutions? Because I think so many times we see that where decisions are made without the input of the individual. So, like, what works for you? So that's important.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I'm glad you're bringing in the culture aspect, right? We talk a lot about, and a lot of our work is around, yeah, trust building, building relationships, relationship management. Because again, we think we go to work that it's all about task management. Here's our agenda, here's what we need to do today, and we just dive in. Then we're like, well, I'm surprised that why didn't you say anything?
Yeah.
Managers come to me, they're like, well, four of my team members resigned and I had no idea. Why didn't they say something? Right?
Yeah.
That's where we go into like, is it safe to admit that it's too much? Or is the culture of organization that it's like, well, then I guess this is not for you. Like
Yeah.
people are afraid to be let go. People are afraid of layoffs and like creating that trust and taking out this stigma. You talked also a little bit. Can you speak more around, we use, and again inside organizations, a lot of like stress, the words like stress and burnout. What is some language that you can offer for leaders and managers instead?
Well, I think it is like stimulation, and there's such a thing as positive stress.
Yeah.
Stress that has got a bad rap. So I would say stimulation and reward. Like, what's going
Mhm.
to get you pumped to come to work every day?
Yeah.
What works for you individually? What are your values that you're honoring when you show up? And
Yeah.
this is helping people connect with their values, the reason they're here. And that reduces that bad word stress or overstimulation.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love it. And I think that's what a lot of leaders like. They're just looking a little bit for that language. Like when I go into these conversations and like, how do I even talk about it? Because we're so afraid to like, ooh, I don't want to put words in their mouth. Or the HR would tell you, like, don't even talk about burnout. Don't even use that word in your meetings. We don't want people to feel like burnout. So I think talking about like over and under stimulation is a great way of like determining are just right as individuals and on our team. Yeah.
Yeah, and optimal functioning of your brain,
Yeah. Oh,
right?
so good. So we're almost at 15 minutes and I wanted to keep it short. A couple of action steps. I know you said like figure out, stand in your own too little, too much. I think it's like I love journaling just because like I love writing down and like brain dumping again. Like when do I feel overstimulated? When do I feel under? What do I need throughout my day? And it's as easy as like maybe how many meetings can I handle in a day to still be a positive, good human being with my family at the end of the day. Because I mean, we all can have like, I'm like, I can do 17 meetings in one day, but then like I bring nothing home. I'm
Yeah.
completely spent. So maybe journaling, anything else that would help people identify their just right and
I would say, like, for me, it is physically standing in that place, recognizing, take an event in your life that you're currently challenged with. Stand in if you're in too much, and chances are you are, because the world doesn't have a lot of areas where you're in too little. But there's wisdom in too little, because the people that are standing in too much just think, oh, I want to go to too little. So go there. And what do you notice in your body? Get into your just right. I know I need to wake up a half an hour before the world wakes up, sit quietly and journal or
Yeah,
whatever it is, listen to music. Get into that place of just right and
yeah.
start creating neuroplasticity. So do it over and over. The brain is lazy, it's going to
Training.
default, right?
Yeah.
So train your brain to create new neural pathways.
Yeah.
And every day, that's why repetition helps.
It's like training. And it's so interesting that so many people, even in my world, talk about sabbatical. I love that you're bringing this up, because we're either burnt out or we're completely disconnected, and like the two constantly operating two extremes, where it's like during the week I work out, I go, I only sleep 5 hours, and we have, right, again, like this popular, like it's so popular to like be busy and like high performing 20 hours, and then on the weekend I do nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's constant. Or it's like, I have a friend and we've been talking about it, where she's like, I don't have time to meet with you, I don't have time, I don't have time, but hey, I'm gonna take January off, I'm not gonna do anything in January, let's like meet then. Again, it's like the integration. It's not,
Yeah.
it's all or nothing culture, right? The division that we have, right? Whether it's like the red states and blue states now, or it's like I do nothing or I do everything. And it's like integrating like the idea of like what is just right, where I'm not completely shut off, but I'm also not all in all the time 24/7.
Yeah. Yeah. And what you're talking about is boundaries. That's neuroplasticity. Like
Mhm.
just putting in those boundaries, making sure you're serving yourself first.
Yeah.
And this is not any knowledge that's not readily available, but what it is doing is balancing those chemicals in your brain, creating integration in your prefrontal cortex and your limbic system. And also, like Dan Siegel says, integration is the basis of health. So we're going for integration all the time. This is where we want to be,
Mhm.
operating from integration.
Yeah, great. I love it. So Carol and I will be offering a couple of webinars. We do go inside organizations. If your team is, what's the opposite of integration? Disintegrated,
Yeah, disintegrated.
is over or understimulated, please reach out to us, reach out to me on LinkedIn, connect with Carol McLean. She is doing amazing work in the field of neuroscience. And yeah, we love working with teams. And leave a comment under this video. If you're watching this later in the day, leave a comment and I'll make sure both me and Carol will attend to the comments and answer your questions. And let's continue this conversation that will help us create better work cultures and better organizations, and the balance, work life balance and integration of it. Thank you, Carol, so much. I love
Oh,
chatting
you're
with you.
welcome.
Two
Yeah.
two more work together.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.